I broke away from the porch. I kicked the banister down off the porch and ran off the porch. I've been.
Then you saw me when you came off the porch. Then you saw me. Oh, that's what happened. When you came down, then behold, you're right. When the student is ready, the master appears. So that's what you see. That's what you remember. That's right.
I'll be that more you gon' remember. To Johnson-Bey front line till the law call my
You were friends with the Moors, then you were a friend of mine. I was told to watch my enemies, now hold my line.
Welcome to another edition of Channel 7. This is the premier Moorish American channel. Moorish World TV is more dedicated to speaking to people, as they would say in politics, across the aisle, if you will. Giving the people that may not be familiar with the Moorish Science Temple of America or its tradition, practices, or principles, giving them a true concept of what it is to be a Moorish American. Channel 7 is dedicated to the Moorish American thought. And the Moorish American thought comes in various forms. There's many branches to the tree of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And as Jesus said, in my Father's house, there's many mansions. And so we have been on a journey to give the public an idea of what's inside some of these mansions. And so today, here again in Baltimore with my guest who represents the teachings of Timothy Dingle L, hyphenated Prophet Noble Drew Ali. The last show you seen, we had Grand Sheik Pray for L on the show. What people don't know is that before that interview was etched in stone, there was an interview that was supposed to be before that interview. And that interview was to be with the brothers that I am interviewing today. Two Johnson-Beys, and you know, if you don't know, y'all just see Johnson-Bey, but if you don't know, I'm a Johnson-Bey also. So we got two Johnson-Beys here, Supreme Grand Sheiks, and they are going to give us an inside look of the teachings of Timothy Dingle L, hyphenated Prophet Noble Drew Ali, whom we refer to here in Baltimore as the bull who shook the earth at will. So now listen, I want y'all to know that as in the former interview, I am not there to debate anybody. Everybody's so used to me being confrontational. But let me tell you something, the only time that I'm confrontational is when somebody wants some confrontation. But in an interview, we're not here for confrontation. In fact, we are here to get understanding. Because understanding is the rock on what man builds himself. So with that being said, let me invite my guest. First, Supreme Grand Sheik Johnson-Bey, and then he'll invite our brother Johnson-Bey. Brother, can you introduce yourself?
Islam. Moorish world. I like to say Islam, praise Allah. My name is Supreme Grand Sheik Darryl Johnson-Bey. Islam.
Islamism. Likewise, my name is Supreme Grand Sheik Jeffery Johnson-Bey.
Islam. So family, we're about to get started. Go ahead, get your popcorn, get whatever you need. But if you have who would like to give us a brief history on the resurrection? And I like to say this to the people. You have to understand that most people identify Timothy Dingle L, hyphenated Prophet Noble Drew Ali's teaching as the resurrection. Now you and I know that the resurrection is a book. Right. So if I refer to in this interview as the resurrection, know for sure that it's in a way that is endearing to just give clarity so the public can know what we're talking about. So when I say, can you give us a brief history of the resurrection, Moorish Science Temple of America, what I'm actually saying is give us a brief history of Timothy Dingle L, hyphenated Prophet Noble Drew Ali, as he began to teach Moorish science here in Baltimore. Would you like to start, brother?
Islam. Tempted Dingle Will, hyphenated prophet known to Allah.
Excellent.
I'm a note first that we use Allah, not just because it was one of the first prints of the prophet, the family, in the order of time, but because people start naming their children Ali, and disrespecting the name Ali, which in the Moorish Institute of America is a title name. So we raised it up to know we do Allah, not the great God Allah, okay, but A or N Allah in the English language. And we want to keep it very, very simple. Him coming from Manning, South Carolina, a lover for his race, was ordained in his mother's womb to bring peace out of confusion. He united in the Moorish movement in 1940. A lover for his race, he discovered that the principles of the Prophet Noble Jew Allah, January 1886, were for society and mankind as a whole. During his tenure in the Moorish Institute of America, in which his brother introduced him to the Moorish Institute of America, he became instrumental in trying to find the exact path or position that the Prophet Noble Jew Allah was in. Because you got to realize, even when he came in, it was confusion.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. And he started discovering that the principles was for society as a whole and not for just a certain few. So he met along the way those who were proclaiming to be this and that, but he was under the teachings of the reincarnated prophet, Brother John Jeffery. He discovered that the prophet's teachings weren't, and I mean weren't, protected. In the Moorish Institute of America, when we talk about protected, we talking about a lot of the stuff that the prophet was using had fell in what we call the public domain. And the public domain is where anybody could have took the Moorish Institute of America and incorporated and used it as if it was their own, even the European.
That's right.
So he commenced to come under the tutelage of the reincarnated prophet and a brother by the name that very few people hear or know or understand, Brother Sidney Rossneal. So he started doing work in the government. What I mean by that, he started understanding that the prophet had a legal method that he wanted his people to adhere to. And that method was to become a part and parcel of the government, not radical against it. We're not anti-American.
No.
We are Moorish Americans. So people were getting the wrong concept, that we were traditional Muslims, that we weren't Asiatic Muslims. The traditional Muslims and Muslims were the same. He started making distinctions. And the distinctions was that we were a specific type of Muslim. And I know everybody cringed when they say a specific type. Well, it can only be one type. Oh, there's more than one type of Muslim.
That's right.
You had those that begin with MU, which denotes black, or colored, or Negro. You have those that begin with MO, please be cool. Genesis, 3rd chapter, verse 9. Those that came from the God. All things descended from the generation of Adam and Eve. So he started constructing these teachings and teaching people in Baltimore about the prophet's history.
Abroad, too, Doc.
And abroad.
That's right.
And which a lot of people don't understand or know.
Right.
The history of the prophet. You hear these masters saying, oh, what we need to know about 25, 26, 27, 28. But he mastered those degrees and in turn gave them to us so that we would have an understanding where we following the Prophet Noble Jew Allah, Ali at that time, or we following a Grand Sheik. So come to find out that in 25, the Prophet organized, but it wasn't the Moorish Institute of America. In 1913, it was the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. A change didn't come until 1926, the Moorish Temple of Science. At a great meeting or a special meeting, I'm going to get back to that in a minute, May the 2nd, of 1928, the prophet had to change that. Why? Because some of his own members, and some of those that he had not yet adopted, was trying to kill him. So the Mo man talking about organizing in 25, he talking about incorporating in 26. Oh, by the way, not UCC laws, I'm talking about turn of the century law. Wasn't even on the scene at that time, so you know we are an incorporation. He started talking about what happened in 25. He started talking about what happened in 26 to incorporate. He talked about what happened in 28 at the special meeting. Prophet demonstrating Jesus, the person of man. Those who were trying to vote him out in 26 because we were civic, by the way. Couldn't touch him no more because he was able under the common law of the country to lose what? Ali instead of Alin. He was able to name his people Sheiks, Sheikesses, hyphen, Bey, and Eo. Because you got to remember, he wasn't able to use that legally at first. You got to remember that. So when the prophet started doing that on the back of our authority form 1099, in conjunction with a certificate number called 10580, which a lot of masters don't know nothing about. They don't know the history of Moorish. That's the foundation on Moorish. Come to find out, in the research years. So anyway, he started coming to know that our prophet was naked. What I mean by naked? He said he wanted to find out what position the prophet was in. And a lot of people don't take into account what position he was in. And I'm trying to conjure, what do he mean? He means that how did the prophet come to move from New Jersey to Chicago, where the laws were suitable or more suitable in Chicago, and tell me that the prophet was doing something that had to be legal. According to the law. That he wasn't just doing it because he was divinely prepared, but because he was legal. It had to be done legal because this is what he's picking up from the old law. Now, I'm not talking about what was established by the Saud to come over here, because we're just talking about the history of America right now. So come to find out that the prophet had constitutional protection in his movement, but in degrees. That's right. He put it in code when I say degree. Remember, we the Moorish Science Temple of America, not Moorish Temple of Science. Moorish Science. Science is compatible with, let's say, proverbs, esoteric teaching. So our mind has to be seasoned. That's what he bring it up to, seasoned mind. So he goes on to tell us that these members in the various locations let our prophet's movement fall in public domain. When they say movement, he's talking about works.
So this is Timothy Dingle, exactly. The prophet over Jerusalem, telling the public.
Exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
Exactly. Now, he raising us at this time. It wasn't no book out. This was through letters. Right. We were being raised through letters. He was writing to us.
Can you stay right there just for a second? Because like you telling us, you giving a good dissertation of the whole story of it. But in doing so, you hit like about 10 points. I just want to touch on like 3 real quick for the sake of the interview. Like he united Timothy Dingle with hyphenated prophet, no Drew Allah, united in the Moorish movement in 1940.
That's right.
At that time, the confusion already exists.
That's right.
And you know, in following the history, getting back to 25, 26, 27, 28, all the way up to 34. We know that the confusion was already there. You know, in the Moorish world, Timmy Moors, or you know, those from Baltimore get the bad rap of we the confusion niggas, like Timothy Dingle and Richard Dingle or Johnson-Bey and Porter, like they started the confusion. The confusion was on the scene with the prophet. That's right. The confusion was on the scene then. That's the first point. Another point, when you talked about the relevancy of 26, 28, the relevancy, how the movement was the Moorish Temple of Science. At a special meeting on May the 2nd, 1928, it changed from the Moorish Temple of Science to the Moorish Science Temple of America Incorporated. Some prints you won't see the incorporation as in INC, but that don't mean that it wasn't incorporated. It was incorporated. When you're dealing with 10580, you see that is the articles of the actual incorporation. Right. When you dealing with that era of time, is ideal for us to pay attention, because from May the 2nd of 1928 to November the 29th of 1928, some things happened. Oh, yeah. And they the things that Timothy Dingle, as well as Richard Dingle, as well as Johnson-Bey were trying to iron out or straighten out. I'm not talking signs, I'm gonna be direct. You had an individual by the name of C. Kirkman Bey, that's right, who incorporated his own incorporation, that's right, known as the Moorish Science Temple of America Incorporated. Only difference between his incorporation and the Founders Incorporation is the Founders was a non-for-profit organization, and his, Kirkman Bey's, was a non-profit organization. Trick of the mind. Same day, 3 years later, Prophet founded the Moorish Temple of Science on November the 29th, 1926. That's right. So if you sit with the Prophet, the movement was founded in 1926 on November the 29th. You wait 3 years later, the Prophet passed form on the 29th of November in 29 and incorporate a movement calling it the Moorish Science Temple of America. How individuals that come in 34, 35, 44, 45, 50, 90s, 2000s, how would they be able to distinguish the difference between the movement? Oh. And that's the confusion. Right. So Timothy Dingle being ushered in 1940, being a lover of his race, mastered all the degrees associated with Moorish. Right. By 1953, he was ordained to bring peace at mind for individuals like you and I about the Moorish Science Temple of America out of that confusion.
How did Timothy Dingle join the Moorish Science Temple of America? Where specifically? And who with? How did that come about?
That was the third demonstration. He talked about Timothy Golden Dingle, hyphenated Prophet Noble Jew Allah, joining the movement in 1940 with the reincarnated prophet. And I like to say Givens it, because I see some documentation that his name was John, and I see his people disputed. His wife said it was one thing other than what I saw on documentation. So I'm just gonna say Givensville for clarity. But I'm talking about the brother known as the reincarnated prophet. He joined the Moorish Science Temple. Let me rephrase this. He joined the Moorish Holy Temple of Science with the reincarnated prophet Givensville. That incorporation didn't come about until 1934, August of 1934. So by 1940, you had 3 incorporations from the state of Illinois being known as the Moorish Science Temple of America Incorporated. One, the founder; one, Kirkman Bey; one, Givensville. By the time 1940, so that's confusion. Right. So Timothy Dingle quest became to bring peace out of that confusion.
Now, I want you to stay right there, because I want you to pick back up on this issue. Now, let's go back to how that happened, because a lot of people don't know how that happened. Right. Now, a lot of people want to use conjecture about who killed the prophet, how the prophet died from pneumonia or whatever. The death certificate tell you, that the prophet possibly suffered or died from pneumonia. Right? They beat him. His own members was trying to get rid of him. Right. And the good time boys.
Paradise.
I'm talking about Paradise Valley. I'm talking about Masonics, Masons and stuff like that, because the prophet wasn't no Mason. He was not a Mason. He was the Egyptian Adat Master. That's what he said. He didn't have to be limited. He dealt with the whole circle, not a portion of it. Now to get back to how this happened. After the prophet, he only attended one convention. That was the convention in 1928. One annual convention. The prophet was allowed to attend after 1928. In 1929, in July, the prophet was out the form. Okay? So, it was only one Supreme Grand Sheik made at that particular time, and that was Supreme Grand Sheik Milieu. So Milieu had made an appointment of a moderator, which at that particular time was a language interpreter named Charles Kirkman Beck.
Right.
I'm just briefing her because I won't be quick to get back to where he at. He made a moderator. Discovering he had made a mistake, he tried to retract it.
That's right. Moderator, so now
He tried to retract it. Yes, that's right.
That's right.
He tried to retract it, and things broke out. You know, when you look at the Moorish voice and papers, you seen kidnappings, killings. That's how you get to our Johnson-Bey outline and a lot of things. We ain't got to go through all that, but you know what's happening. People
Well, we
wanna
can
know
if
if
we needed to,
If
but-
we needed to, we know exactly what happened. That's all. So, kidnappings, you name it. So, at this 29 convention, you had exactly 15 states that the prophet had established registration centers then. I'll say registration, you know, which is more south to what American corporate, because ain't no more registration centers. The only way a nigga with black color can change from being, being dead to being alive is to proclaim.
That's
in the
right.
more south to what America.
That's right. One way.
So when the brother prophet known as Gibbons-Eel seen what was going on
Right.
with Kirkman Bey and Milieu,
Right.
he said, "I'm back." This is all was a seven. He was the chauffeur of the prophet.
That's right.
He said, "I'm back." At that juncture, the temple split. 7 went one way, 8 went the other.
That's right.
So that's the initial split.
Right.
And as time went on, they started filing court decrees.
Sure.
We'll start going to court. And the exclusive right to use Moorish Science Temple of America was given to the Kirkman Bey faction. The exclusive right. But listen and listen good. It was under a chancery court,
Right.
a court of equity, a state court. It wasn't federal to use Moorish Science Temple of America.
Right.
Exclusive right to use it.
Right.
Okay? But he only had the right to use that is because the brother prophet Gibbons-Eel and Shelby Bay did default judgment. They didn't come. And they couldn't substantiate what they were saying when all they had to do was to stay with the first foundation.
The true foundation.
It's on the back of Form 1099, and they beat them out because they used the name on the back of Form 1099, Al Authority. You know what that name was?
Oh, yeah.
But he had made the error. So here we go with all these court decrees. People saying this, people saying that, grand body here, grand body there. Grand body is not a group of people.
Can you give him honor for that? You were on point when you sanctioned for the different leaders of different grand bodies.
Did y'all get a chance to see that video, Pete?
Honestly, I didn't get a chance, but I will check it out.
Just tell you.
As I said, this is an interview. And
Let's tell you what.
So we're on the same page.
Right.
But what I want to do is, after you get that, I really want the public to know more about Timothy Dingle.
Got you. That's where I'm going to.
So as we work
I'm
up,
going exactly to how he came about.
Because the public actually, as you say, believe that this is where a lot of the confusion
Exactly.
comes. And that doesn't exclude me.
Exactly.
Because they say you from Baltimore
Exactly.
too.
Right.
And
Exactly.
so we want to get
And that's
that
what
to
we want to do. Bring you up to speed about the history, then coming up, right?
it.
He seen all this was happening. Remember, he loved before his race. He loved the prophet. He studied the position of the prophet. Never forget the position of the prophet.
Right.
But the prophet talks in degrees. See, you got to be a good master Moorish scientist to understand what the Mo man did.
Right.
And studying his degrees and being sent on missions to try to get the government to understand what we were called forth to do or what the prophet was doing. Because remember, the prophet could have, but he didn't finish everything.
That's right.
He left some things those who took on his thought to come back and do it. So as he was going along, he started doing work in the government. Timothy Dingle with his brother, Richardson Dingle.
That's right.
Right? Now the brief view, Johnson-Bey was the Prince of Peace. He didn't start in Washington, D.C. Port Hill was the Chief Mufti.
Right.
He was in charge of all security at that particular time under Johnson-Bey, who later tried to dissolve the movement on Baltimore Street, West Baltimore Street. Right? He the Prince of Peace, for real.
That's right.
They even tried to carry him to court to stop using doctor. He won it.
Right.
He won it in the court of law as being a herbal doctor. But master was the master. But come on.
Say that. See, like, why we start with the history aspect of it, because if you don't understand the history, when we start explaining about the moment, you still don't understand. If you understand that in Islamism, which we both are part of, you got a grandfather clause. Either you grandfathered in through one grandfather or the other. When we start talking about you saying Timothy Dingle will hyphenated Prophet Noble Drew Allah, when did he come in the movement in 1940? By 1953, he was grandfathered into the original incorporation.
Just unscripted.
That's where we
at. That's where we at. That's where
we
we
just giving a brief dissertation of the history because we know nobody. Everybody's saying it's ADAP what we're talking about right now. And unless you've been in an ADAP chamber, you don't know that this is not ADAP. This is history. Leaders just don't know this history. They don't have this history.
That's right.
So you know, members don't have it or not exposed to it. They saying, let's go behind closed doors and talk about this.
Right.
No, let's talk about this in the broad daylight. Let's stop fleecing the people, let them know what they're a part of.
Right.
There's more than one incorporation known as the Moorish Science Temple of America Incorporated. Right now, you probably have 50. There's individuals incorporating in each state throughout the United States as they see fit, so nobody can tell them what to do.
Right.
But we're part of the original incorporation.
The Prophet's Foundation. That's what we distinguish the true foundation.
Right.
It ain't but one true foundation. That is November the 29th, 1926. It was a civic organization at that time. It wasn't even religious. A term religion. They could vote then.
Y'all aware of that? There's a bunch of groups that's saying that they also are part of the original foundation.
Exactly. And then we get ready to dispel it right now. We get ready to dispel that myth right there. We get ready to dispel that myth. Now here comes Timothy Dingle, right? He met a master set with all the grandfathers.
Let me. Family, I would like y'all to definitely subscribe. It's about to get heated up.
Yes.
I just had to stop the Spring Grass Sheik for a second. I'm actually enjoying this, and I hope you are too. Man, please subscribe so we can carry on this mission with Channel 7. Brother, the floor is yours.
Islam. So he gonna Timothy Dingle, you know what I mean? Come to meet this other master, who very few hear about. His name was Brother Sidney Ross Neal, national chairman.
Right.
At that particular time. Nobody really know about him because we all come up under the reincarnation.
So let's talk about that for 1 second. Let me stop right there. Sidney Rossell, he's the national chairman. Who is the Grand Sheik?
Okay, the Grand Sheik at that was they're still under reincarnated.
Okay.
Okay? But remember the authority.
Right. The catch is that Sidney Rossell came into the movement with the founder.
Right.
When the split happened with Kirkman Bey, he realized that was a movement.
And he moved with the reincarnated.
He just went with him.
Chairman.
He went with him. He never was accepted. He went with him. Like, he went with him because he seemed good in what they were doing.
And he did.
But they looked at him a little you know, sideways too.
That's
because, you know, he functioned like you would be seen if brothers didn't understand you. You can function with anybody.
In other words, they was off.
Yeah.
Right.
They were off. Off ahead, blaming on the wind.
Right.
We're not blaming this on the wind. They were off.
Right.
Timothy Hill come to find out because he had dropped his last name.
He was Timothy Hill.
Yeah, he was Timothy Hill one time.
At one time.
Right? So he had to see the position, the whole. So you got an examiner at this particular time who sat with everybody who got the goods.
Right.
And he just talked about the grandfather. He said you either come into one or the other. Timothy Hill never made it proud. He got an examiner. Come stay with him. 18 days, come to find out this man can be trusted. This man can be trusted. This man got a divine something about him, according to this man, Brother Sidney Ross Neal. So here we go. He became a divine minister in 53.
53. That's who made him. Sidney Ross Neal, not the reincarnated prophet.
Now that's who made him now.
Right.
Now you got to remember that the movement is not protected still. You got to remember that.
Right.
What I mean by protected. Anybody, all the goods was in public domain. Form 1099, everything.
Right. Everything we need.
That's serious. That has to be protected. People don't understand that in the Moorish world. They think that anybody could have used.
You a nationality.
Holy Quran of the Moorish Science of America was throughout the chamber to the public. All rights reserved. Can't copyright something that's throughout. After it's been copyrighted. Remember, the Prophet's common law copyright ran out.
Right.
Can't renew something after it's ran out. You know the Sony degree, you know the so-called black shriners, so-called white shriners with the rituals. They copyrighted, one couldn't use it, the other could. Coming right back to him, Timothy Dingle Hill. Here with Timothy Dingle Hill, he discovered that the prophet and degrees put the Constitution and our teachings under parentheses, which mean what?
Important.
That's right.
Anything in parentheses means something
right?
important.
Copy and under all rights reserved in our Holy Quran.
1927.
1927.
Letting you know that he did file some form of copyright.
That's right. And using the works of the old author. We call old author January 1886. Noble Drew Allah put it together and spell what? Copyright. But a lot of Moorish Americans don't know that the prophet had copyright. Talking about the old author. He just limited it because he put it in degrees. That's why he was able to call us. He couldn't use America. He couldn't even use Ali in America. He used Ali. You check it out. It's in the teacher. He used Ali in the sense of type. It's not. It's a religious teacher. When he went over to Havana, Cuba in 28 to get us recognition, he came back. He knew work had to be done, but he knew the thieves and the robbers would have took us. So what Timothy Dingle? He told us back in the 70s, study copyright. It should be of interest to you one day. And everybody got patent, everybody got registration.
Not higher than copyright.
Everybody went to court, everybody told me they got the political persuasion, one got this one. Ain't nothing higher than the acid test. And that's copyright, because it passed all the acid tests. So what he did, here's what he did. And he got all the thieves and robbers that was against the prophet. Or he copyrighted what caused the Moorish Science Temple of America to function. The Moorish Science Temple of America is an incorporation. We already know that. He ain't copyrighted the incorporation. Let me tell you about the book. Right? Moorish Science is a distinct body of knowledge that can pass us all knowledge. So he got resurrection. That's Jesus. Right. Because they killed Jesus. Where they kill him at? Hearts and minds of the people. Where they kill the prophet at? In the hearts and minds of the people. Because they go up and bury up cemetery to see him. That ain't where he at. You going against his teaching. He said, man is neither the body nor the soul, but he is spirit and the power of love. So what you doing up in Barrow? That ain't that him.
So let's take a stop for 1 second. Mm-hmm. So with this copyright protection, and we still have people, even if you go on the internet now, producing the works of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, does that have, can we correlate any of that with copyright protection?
What we want to do is that anybody, and we're going to make a vast statement, a bold statement. Anybody that hadn't filed copyright protection on the works of Noble Drew Ali before 1887 or 1889, it's my fair blame on the women, or before 1974.
From 1974 back to let's say
they perpetrating the fraud.
Right.
You can carry them to court, or they can carry us to court, and you can see that they don't have the authority to use copyright on the works of Noble Drew Ali. Because Timothy Dingle made the statement that if anybody can produce a record, and we go behind that statement, that they had copyright protection on the works of the prophet before 1974, we have followed them.
Has anybody ever found the original copyright that the prophet found?
Common law? It's in his teachings.
It's in his teachings.
It's in his teachings.
You know what I'm saying is, like, when you look at the record of Timothy Dingle, hyphenated Prophet Noble Drew Ali, he files copyright protection, and you actually can discover it.
Yeah.
You actually can discover it. Can you actually discover
in his
the same manner?
In his teaching.
Not in his teaching. I'm saying in the same manner. In the same manner as we can find Timothy Dingle.
When you start talking about copyright, you got to understand when copyright came into existence in the manner that is being practiced right now. Talking about Brady right to copyright. That wasn't around during the time that the founder found copyright. During the time that the founder founded copyright, you can have what is known as common law copyright.
That's right.
You can just produce a work and put all rights reserved and it's protected like gentleman copyright. It's known as gentleman copyright. Now the flip side to that is Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the founder, never completed the copyright process on his works. That was never his intention. His intention was to work the science of initiating the process. Once he initiated the process, out of his chambers and those who follow him could pick up on it.
So here we are.
Yeah.
So Prophet Noble Drew Ali just for clarity for the audience, Prophet Noble Drew Ali initiates the process of putting the work there. Now come back. Timothy Dingle, hyphenated Prophet Noble Drew Ali, joins the movement and he completes the work. This is where we at.
That's right.
All right.
Now,
I'm only doing this for
that's good. No, that's
I want people to know.
good. That's what we want. We want people to know because he's getting a bad rap.
And
he's getting a bad rap.
That's one of the things we just talked about in Sunday school. Us that know, we take for granted when we're talking people that hear us know, when in all actuality not being exposed to the same things we are. So that's good. Like,
and you know, we defend them through heaven and hell because we don't see the difference in him and the old author. When I say old author, new author, I'm just talking about of time.
Well, okay, good.
We don't see the difference.
I like that. So when we say, and I asked many brothers this question before in the past, when we say Timothy Dingle, hyphenated Prophet Noble Drew Ali, do we are you referring to he is exactly Prophet Noble Drew Ali as it represents? I'm not talking no spooky stuff.
Come on.
No, I'm just saying for the audience, I'm not talking any spooky stuff. I want to make clarification that, are we talking about that this is exactly the work that's being performed by Timothy Dingle in conjunction to the exact work of Prophet?
We talking about the works, which is the spirit of truth. Listen, the biggest secret in the world is authority. And that's the biggest obstacle in Moorish, is authority. Who got the authority? Prophet tell you got the authority. The prophet tell you got the authority in your Moorish literature. He said he had to make it public because he knew some of y'all some of y'all was infidels. He said that all power and authority, this is a public statement in our Moorish literature. He said all power, look, all, not some, all power and authority of a preposition, the Moorish Scientific of America, is invested in the Prophet Noble Drew Ali and those whom he, the Prophet, appoints to act, I ain't paraphrasing, in the supreme body. So that telling me the Prophet always here then.
Man,
he always here. He intended never to go nowhere. So he really ain't in buried nowhere. They killed him in the minds and hearts of the people. So he always there. How's he there? It's an office. Noble Drew Ali is a title. Christ is a title. Jesus wasn't born Jesus the Christ. He was born Jesus of Nazareth. He earned the title Christ because people seen the spirit of truth and Jesus are the first Christ to walk the earth, called El Elyon, Melchizedek.
So what we say Timothy Dingle is demonstrating that same spirit of
truth. That's where exactly where we at. He's not a reincarnation, different form, different body, but the same spirit. You got it right on there. Different body, same
spirit.
Same spirit. He doing what the prophet wanted done. He called the prophet his daddy. We call him our daddy.
My daddy is one.
He say, I'm the new author. Listen to him. Listen to him. Everybody, please listen to the master. He ain't trying to shut nobody down or put himself up. He was a just man. We ain't trying to lift ourselves up. We trying to protect him and the mother and the Dingle family. He was a just man. They was loving people. They want to unify Moorish. He say, I'm my father one. He say, I'm going to act as if my father is still here. You know what I'm saying? Because all we doing is protecting his works. What is his works? 10580 certificate number, which they don't know nothing about, and Form 1099, our authority.
That's Moorish.
That's Moorish. That's on Moorish. He say anybody that's using Moorish that don't have a resurrection charter, he ain't saying that the charter is named the resurrection. He said have a resurrection charter to let you know he protected Jesus back on the scene. Spirit of truth. Don't have that charter, they out of order. They will give it up under the principle of love.
Now let's say this. So all the charters throughout the nation that is not resurrection charters, and the thought of Timothy Dingle, hyphenated Prophet Noble Drew Ali, are totally out of order.
Listen to me. Page 69.
And the reason why I said
got
that,
you. I got you.
yeah,
You're all right.
I got you.
I want to make sure.
I
I
got
want to
you.
make sure
I got
that
you.
we
got your
we
question.
just hit
Listen,
dead
I
on.
got your question.
Page 69 in the Resurrection book. It tells you that you had temples before Timothy Dingle, hyphenated prophet, noble Drew Allah, that had charters. What he's saying, so that we all could be on one accord to demonstrate the unity, bring all the temples back on the true foundation and incorporation that the founder created, not the one C. Kirkman Bey or Given Zeal or any other master that came behind them and reincorporated in states. To get all us back on one accord, you're going to do it according to the charter issued by him.
Right.
I don't want to say resurrection charter, because that's not what it is. That's a charter of the Moorish Science Temple of America Incorporated. You read it, it don't say resurrection nowhere on there, dog. We say resurrection, which is the name of the book, because the book has power and it has authority.
He used resurrection charter, but just like he's talking about, just for clarification.
Just for clarification, how you do to distinguish. Meaning, if you had a charter under the old office, we're not trying to shut you down. He wasn't trying to shut you down. He trying to give you federal protection, so put this charter next to your charter. You okay? You federally protected. The mission. He said if he enforced copyright, he can close. He can shut Moorish down. He never intended to. He want everybody, man, to come under the principle of love. You really love the founder, and you see the work that I'm doing in the name of the founder. We don't have no issues with each other.
So would you say that due to the works of Timothy Dingle, that now the foundation of Moorish is in Baltimore?
Yeah, now that's. I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that, because I hope I ain't out of order for a personal conversation that you and I had. We refer to 3911 Bell Avenue as the headquarters. That's the home office. That's the sacred road.
That's right.
It's not our Mecca. Right. Chicago is our Mecca, and because I understood the degrees that was being worked. Right. We hold it in high esteem. See, the grand body is in Chicago, Illinois. Right. The head could be in any state. We saying that the head of the Moorish Science Temple of America resides at 3911 Bell Avenue. That's a sacred road. When we saying that the grand body is in Chicago, Illinois, we're not talking about a meeting of people or nothing like that. We're talking about the foundation. 10580 in conjunction with Form 1099, the incorporation. The laws were more suitable in Chicago. That's our foundation. Can't go anywhere. Man, we can sign solid, we can work a degree. What make Mecca so holy? That's where the first physical man was formed. Kai, spirit, in it, flesh, blood, a cobblestone over there. What makes Chicago our Mecca? That's the true foundation stone. That's what makes all this possible. That's right. He couldn't do it in Jersey, or we'd be paying homage to New Jersey.
And then guess what? Why would they reincorporate when we perpetuate succession?
Succession.
All you got to do is stay on the true foundation.
The true foundation. When he left, when he passed form, he had 17 temples in 15 different states. His objective was to have 8 temples, if not more than 8, many, in each state throughout the United States. He had an objective. We know what the objective is. You have 10,000 individuals in each state throughout the United States. There's a whole lot of things happening from a political point of view, like block vote. You got members being taught we Republicans because the prophet mentioned a Republican form of government.
The priest went on that
Republican ticket at that time is not the same as now. The parties changed. When he said Republican form of government, that's a government for the people.
We Democrats.
We're not Republicans or Democrats. But if we in Maryland, a Democratic-led state, and you got young rising stars, man, I hope I shoot from the hip. You got young rising stars like Letter Brother, Jonah Hill. Running for a seat. Man, we can pull all our resources behind them. But how you going to win running as a Republican in a Democratic-led state? You don't owe no allegiance to the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. Our politics are our politics. What we do is we run on a platform that's best suitable.
Yeah, because our Constitution says we are divine and national. That's a Democrat. I'm not ruled by law. But we got policies, right? That we can go on either one. But the Democratic principles sometimes are suitable, sometimes they're not. A lot of things we got conservative principles too. A lot of things we don't believe in. That's why we don't write grants and things of that nature, because we don't want anything to just infiltrate it. But the only way the Negro problem can be solved is through here. Free national name, a free national ballot. He was contesting. My man did all that. We talking about Timothy Dingle now. He did all of that. Ain't nobody do that.
No.
Now, excuse me, Brother Richard, his brother didn't do it.
No. All German.
The Prince of Peace didn't do it. He made him that. He was making all the sheiks in Chicago, not that. He would send them to him. A lot of people don't even know that. The old man was making sheiks. That's who was doing it.
Chief Supreme Grand Sheik Timothy Dingle, hyphenated prophet, noble Jew Allah, found himself in the same position that you and I find ourselves in. What's going on in the Moorish Temple of America is individuals realizing that their leader is not who they say they are, but they keep in secret sin.
That's right.
My man had courage enough, even though his brother brought him into the movement, to break away from him.
That's right.
Even though Johnson-Bey was his leader at one time, loved him to death, broke away from him. Even though he functioned under the reincarnated prophet, broke away from him. One individual that promoted him and gave him what his perspective was the brother that he just was talking about, national chairman, but he also was a Supreme Grand Sheik. It's crazy because I heard a brother say that a Supreme Grand Governor is higher than a Supreme Grand Sheik. But how do you know anything about a Supreme anything when we haven't even constructed a Supreme body? 10 years ago, outside of Milieu being called the Supreme Grand Sheik, nobody was using the title.
Actually,
the brother,
He must be a Johnson-Bey. I remember that the other day.
The brother and I,
teaching.
The brother and I, from years of studying, promoted a Grand Sheik as a Supreme Grand Sheik. I got to be honest, even his circle didn't want to, like, no, we can't call him no Supreme. He no Supreme, but you got to. When you read chapter 47 in the Holy Quran, it tell you about a Supreme body. When you go to page 11 in the literature pamphlet, he's saying all power and authority that's vested in the all power and authority of the Moorish Temple of America Incorporated is vested in Noble Drew Ali, which we pronounce as Allah, and his supreme, or those who live to point to his supreme body. Where the supreme body at? We promote one individual. Now, individuals that called themselves federal Grand Sheiks 10 years ago, now proclaiming to be supreme Grand Sheiks.
But hold it, can't know anybody appoint or anoint a supreme body.
Only the prophet.
And only the prophet. Yeah. So now we get the 3911 Bell Avenue. That's the office of the prophet.
That's right.
That's the prophet's office. No, what you have the office.
That's right.
Like the president. Yeah. Trump wasn't issue. That's the office.
So for clarity, now Timothy Dingle, hyphenated prophet Noble Drew Ali, in Baltimore. Now the office is at 39.
That's right.
Bell Avenue.
It's home office.
Home office.
And you're saying who fulfilling that? Well, we can get into that too.
That's right.
Because
no, we're going to get into that in a second. What I wanted to, before we go there, I wanted to ask how many temples, let's get into some of the conversation of Timothy Dingle. How many temples was he able to establish and while he was in the flesh?
One. He is.
Yeah.
Now, how many temples was he affiliated with? How many temples did he do work for? He did work for all three grandfathers. You know, individuals were under the impression that Timothy Dingle only made his sheiks in Chicago. Timothy Dingle never made his sheiks in Chicago. He made his sheiks where he resided, who was Murder Avenue. You got a sheik back there. But he made his sheiks where he resided. Bella Avenue and some of that. Wherever. But because he had elevated to the degrees and titles that he elevated to, outside of this first heaven, other heaven existed. When he went to Chicago, he made sheiks dead. He made individuals dead. They not his. He doing the work for.
Well, let's not just go there. Let's talk about all the customs and traditions that these temples are practicing was established by Timothy Dingle. I didn't know better. They didn't have no ceremony. When the prophet was on the scene, he was handing nationality cards out. handing them out to brother.
Timothy Dingle created that
Created
system.
the national
Being
basic
guided,
ceremony.
dealing with selective
That's right.
service.
All
Not
of that.
just them, the Department of Defense.
Even the hyphen.
Even the
hyphen.
hyphen. You know, the Pentagon.
Even the hyphen.
Social Security. Well, actually, I don't really like talking about Social Security, but even Social Security, motor vehicle.
Yeah.
When you start saying selective service, the Pentagon,
Right.
you high knocker. You talking about who hand down mandate to Social Security.
Right.
Who hand down mandate to motor vehicle.
Right.
You know, he started dealing with motor vehicle, Social Security, but he had to go and get mandates handed down. Right now, that would be Homeland Security, who received mandate from the OMB, Office of Management and Budget. It's individuals that we're in, you know, connection with for the whole of Moore Science Temple of the Mount.
He's not trying to put himself. We left him out.
The people.
The people.
His Messiah.
Who issued charters for the Moorish
prophet.
Temple of the Resurrection?
The office of the prophet.
No, I'm talking about physically
That's
today.
what I'm telling you. The office of the prophet. We do. The office of the prophet.
here.
The office of the prophet.
Those-
through the home office.
Those individuals.
Right. All right, let me rewind on that. Where is the home office today, and who's acting?
39 Bel Avenue.
Who's acting in leadership of the home
I'm talking
office?
to you now.
The individuals who were appointed
Who
Supreme
is that?
Grand
Listen to
Is that you?
Listen to him right there.
You?
I just talked to Darryl Dingle last night. I let him know that we was representing that office.
Right.
We were.
Yeah, so
This
family, this is what I'm
we
asking.
doing that.
This is what I'm asking.
We were appointed by.
Because today, and I'm going to ask another question that, that centers around
what
that.
we doing.
In Baltimore, we do have quite a few different groups calling themselves, quote unquote, Resurrection Moorish Science Temple America, or representing the teachings of Timothy Dingle, hyphenated Prophet Obadiah Ali. It's quite a few of them. So for the public, I'm trying to say, who is the, as we talk about the Soul Foundation as relates to Prophet Obadiah Ali,
You have
what is
a
the Soul Foundation here in Baltimore for the teachings of Timothy Dingle? And I'm not trying to cause no confusion. I'm just trying to bring peace out of confusion.
Now, you have a couple different individuals who were anointed Supreme Grand Sheiks under the authority of the Home Office. Some of those individuals who were anointed Supreme Grand Sheiks have had that station vacated. They've been stripped of their titles. Right now, you actually have 7 individuals that make up, and we received the title of Supreme. You have 7 individuals that make it up. I'm only going to name the ones at the time that we were appointed, that because she kept 2 out of the public for whatever reason. I can't. But Darryl Johnson-Bey, Supreme Grand Sheik. Supreme Grand Sheik is Jackie Robinson-Hill. Myself, Supreme Grand Sheik, Darryl Johnson-Bey. Supreme Grand Sheik, the Nagil, he's past form right now. Supreme Grand Sheik, I can't name them 2. I'm only naming the ones. John Matthews Bey, and it's 2 more. But at that time, she didn't choose to make it public.
Now, who we saying she?
At that time, she was the head of the Home Office.
Who is she?
Diane Dingle.
Okay, and that
the daughter
is
of Louise Dingle, who stood fast in the absence of Timothy.
Let me
Dingle.
say that I do know these answers, but I just want the public to know.
Public to know.
Yes.
I know you do. I know you do.
So Diane Dingle,
right,
who ultimately becomes the authority to give authority, issues these positions of Supreme Grand Sheik.
Right. The concept.
Yes, absolutely.
That we explaining. Copyright. It's federal law. Federal law, if you have a TX form, all the power and authority that's allotted to the work that you publish get handed down to who's on the TX form. The individuals that we named, Supreme Grand Sheiks, man, you did a good job with that. Did you make that array of the pictures? Because you had a picture on there, man, that come out of a sacred grove of Louise Dingle. I was talking about Louise, the picture that I'm telling you that you need.
I have a.
But I don't mean to digress, but is a picture, is a particular picture.
Okay.
That particular picture that he have is the day that she actually made Lomax Bay. That particular day.
Let me say this: a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't. And I say this publicly. A lot of people don't approve of the brother that I came under, but I think the brother, I admire the brother. Hey, Sample Bay.
I came out with him.
That's my bro. I love him. You know,
I came out with him.
He took me to the road where I needed to go. So because I was under that, I got boxes of.
Listen to what I'm saying.
Of pictures and letters and. I
came up
so
with your
much.
dad.
Yeah. Hey, Sample Bay.
Hey, Sample Bay. Gave us one-on-one.
Yeah, that's my bro. That's
good brother. For everybody.
Now the point that we like to emphasize.
I want to tell them about Hey Sample Bay and the name.
So I have boxes of history. Put it that way.
Yeah, I just want to tell you about the only disagreement I got. No, hey, and I love him to death.
It's good to go there.
I want you to go
You
there.
know, and I'm not slighting him. And he told me already why he did it. He told me why he did it. But he should have let us give it to him. No drill. No drill. He should have let us give it to him.
This is the point I was going to make without like just trying not to personalize with one individual. There's quite a few different individuals that function with the MoMan that have attained certain stations, titles, and didn't fulfill them. Like we can actually lose our titles if we don't fulfill what the obligation is with being a Supreme Grand Sheik. You posed that question. What is Supreme Grand Sheik supposed to do?
Absolutely.
Supreme Grand Sheik is supposed to act in the stead of the prophet. That Supreme Grand Body supposed to act in the stead of the prophet. To get done what the prophet wanted done. No personal agendas.
Cook Bates told you that.
No personal agendas whatsoever. Fulfill the mission of the prophet. Give your life as a willing sacrifice for the all of life. That's what the Supreme Body is supposed to do. Supreme Grand Sheiks and Sheikesses make up the Supreme Body. Right now, we're trying to utilize. We're trying to unify in the sense that we can create that body, so that we can teach. Hey, one thing. We can't blame the listeners or the members for the confusion. But I don't agree with, we got to take things behind closed doors to work them out. Because when we go behind closed doors,
I don't agree with that.
Yeah, you can tell your version to your people. I tell my version to my people going to believe me. Your people going to believe you. But if we do it in the broad daylight in the public, the people get to see for themselves. Now, I'm not talking nothing that's sensitive. All this stuff is known already. You trying to hide it from people, cause them more harm than good. But in a Supreme Body, the things that need to be taught, because you don't have a portion. I have a different portion. We all have portions of what? The understanding. There's only one his understanding. That's what we should be promoting. Yeah. So I don't agree with. You got your ideology, I got mine, and I can't tell you you're wrong. I can't tell you you're wrong according to prophet if you're wrong, and you can tell me I'm wrong if it's according to the doctrine that we're promoting in a system that the prophet borders. So that's what the Supreme Body is, to get all us on one accord.
That's the only reason why the MoMan did what he did, to unify.
Do you think we ever going to unify on that one accord?
Yes. Yeah. Individuals like yourself.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we are.
Myself. Yes.
Yeah, we are.
We crossing. You breaking down verse. I just want to say this, and don't edit this off of there, man. Because you can't. One thing I realized, you can't give yourself honor.
Right.
The people are the proof of your messiahship. Your peers got to see the work that you're doing and promote you for doing that work.
Right.
You're doing the work, man, and I'm telling you because I share the same philosophy, the same thoughts about that social media, about going virtual and all that. And this brother we've been sitting with each other for about 26 years now. He'll tell you this ain't no flattery or nothing. Man, 15 years ago, 12 years ago, was trying to implement the same platform that you're implementing right now. But, listening to instructors, leaders, and stuff like that, wasn't able to bring it to, fruition. Man, you're the future of more science.
Now, here's what I want to say.
Let me just finish this last thing. You the future. I want you to hear it. You the future the platform that you have.
No.
That don't mean I agree with your ideology
That's
totally.
Right. That's right.
But the platform that you have is the platform that, hey, look, I can't even, I'm not even supposed to be this close to him right
And
now.
I'm glad you put emphasis on that, because we don't have to agree with each other's ideology, but we just have some understanding.
But that's the
That's
future
the
of
beautiful
more
thing
science.
about it.
But see, what's so great about more science? It makes everything so simplistic. I say more science.
Right.
Here's how simplistic it makes it. How we know everything's going to tend upward. Everything's going to tend upward. Not like a brother Rainbow said, man is right. The spirits of yesterday, the spirits of
Same
today.
spirit.
Your spirit coming up until you get it right. My spirit coming until we get it right. That's how we perfect it. It's coming back. The prophet said it's coming back.
So at this point, you and Brother Johnson-Bey, Supreme Grand Sheiks, you are able to issue charters.
Listen to
Is that correct?
Listen to what it's saying. Through the home office.
Through the home office, yeah.
Through
But
the home
you
office.
have the authority to issue
Through the home office.
If
That's what
we
do,
found
right.
candidates that
Exactly.
were worthy,
Right. We can do that's right.
we could submit their name
Right.
to the Supreme
That's right.
body, and
That's
it
right.
won't be him and I
Right.
solely.
The reason,
but the body would
That's
issue.
what he's saying.
the reason why I say that, because I hear everybody, on social media, everybody, they jump this person, go this one, to get a piece of paper here, to get a piece of that, piece of paper there. So I just wanted to know, how does that work? And that was a perfect.
The key
great
example to that is, well, if I can go to Staples and print out a charter,
I say that.
but with authority, that TX form,
Yeah,
that
exactly.
Book of the Resurrection is the authority in which we
That's
function. That's what our charter is under. I can't act instead
right.
of the whole
Exactly.
body. He not at liberty
Exactly.
to act instead
of the
unless
whole body.
the
We
body
get
say,
right.
like, work on
Right.
our behalf. Go ahead and do what
Look.
you need to do.
Look, it's not our concept.
No.
The prophet say the prophet has charters issue out to every
each
state.
state
Not
throughout the
Darryl,
United
Jeffery. The prophet has charters issued out to every state throughout the United States and abroad.
Right.
The prophet.
So home office here in Baltimore is a collective that issues it.
Right.
Do that home office.
That's right.
I got you.
That's the power, and that's the
That's up.
home office had
Whose
TX
signature
members.
goes on there?
The prophet.
In our stead,
Yeah.
the person who was signing in
That's
on
right.
behalf of the prophet.
That's right.
Now you go look at the charter
That's
on
right.
the wall, you can see
Check the
that
Dingle
you had
video.
the national chair
Right.
woman, you had the chief supreme
right.
grand sheik is Louise Dingle,
right.
and you had the supreme grand governor
Jerome
Jerome
Grand
Grand-Bay, who signed our charter.
Right.
Okay.
Do that stay the same if the supreme body formed tomorrow and issue charters?
Exactly.
Who the supreme body say
Right.
sign off on the status? You might see Supreme Grand Sheik Darryl Johnson-Bey.
In interviewing my brother, and y'all know I love Brother Prather, he says that he's going to Chicago,
Right.
every October
Right.
this year forward.
Right.
Do y'all have any plans of doing convention?
Islam. Yep, we would like to say that. We would like to say that. The master changed ours from every year to every 3 years at the Supreme Grand Resurrection Assembly. That's
So
it's
I just
just
want
like
to
a
clarify.
convention.
So every 3 years now there's a convention as
Exactly.
opposed
Once
to
we
every
convene
year.
now for everybody,
And Timothy
right.
Dingle
So we not going
initiated
That's right.
every 3 years convention.
P 69.
Can I don't mean to turn it on you. But what's in Chicago
Yeah.
right now, brother?
Yeah, tell them.
You want me to answer?
No. I think a lot of times Moors get caught up on tradition
Okay.
as opposed to
Contemporary, being contemporary.
Yeah.
Keeping
Yes.
things, keeping the tradition in place, but making it
I think they do tradition without understanding.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
as you just said, you just broke down not only a tradition, but you also giving clarity to
Clarification,
understand
exactly.
why 3
Yeah,
years.
because we want to do what the prophet said. We don't want to do what we say or some of our Grand Sheik or what Darryl Johnson-Bey said do. We want to do what the prophet said do. Because if we deviate from that, we somewhere where we not supposed
Now,
to be.
When is y'all next convention here in Baltimore?
We haven't We haven't decided it yet. We haven't convened yet. That's what we're in the process of getting things together. That's what we're doing. We're not going to tell you no. We're going to be honest with you straight up.
Transparent.
Right? But remember, because I don't want it to go back and say the movement ain't used resurrection charge. He used resurrection charge.
He used the term.
The term. You don't have a resurrection charge. But he's
that's
not talking about,
charge.
that's the name of the charge, resurrection. Right? Charge under the thought. That's all he's saying.
Right.
Because I want our words.
I thought I clarified that.
Yeah, no, you good. The thing
Now,
is,
I just want to get back to something, because
Come on
you
with
made
it.
a point with Chicago, and I asked you what's the importance of Chicago. You know, right now, none of the major fractions of the Moorish Science Temple of America Incorporated headquarters are in Chicago. None. So you made an invasion in Chicago, so be it. But what do that solidify to the people? Because the prophet started off with his first convention in Chicago. Who to say that the prophet wouldn't have moved it to different states every year to generate, an economy everywhere that he had a temple? Because that's what I can foresee in my mind. But who's to say I'm right? And I say all this to say, man, the significance of Chicago, Illinois, and that's not taking nothing away from it, because it's our Mecca, it's the chief cornerstone.
That's right.
10580 in conjunction with Form 1099. That's not talking about a body or conglomerate of people. That's talking about a body in the sense of a form with our authority.
oh yeah, and the reason I just picked that out, like, I think people want to be traditionalists. That's fine with me, but tradition without understanding is
Yeah, but Reverend Thompson, the Whitestone Baptist Church, was my grandfather. You know what I'm saying? Christian Baptist. Now, if I'm dealing with tradition, I'll be a Baptist Christian. Got me?
tradition without
So
understanding.
right. So now I gotta find out who I am. That's what brothers and sisters we say should do. Before you start condemning, because I have people on Facebook, they talk about the moment like he was. Like, he ain't this, he ain't that. I would never do that to nobody. I wouldn't do it to Sheik, you know what I mean? Or, known as Nova Drew Ali. I wouldn't do it to you, to Huckabee, without, I wouldn't get on Facebook and start calling names.
Publicly, period. That's not, we demonstrate diplomacy.
Compensate the public must not know what you're wrongdoing. On that hooping.
Don't mean keep your secrets.
Right. Don't mean
Your
keep your
secret
secrets.
sin.
And I'm not telling you don't debate with nobody, because sometimes debate is healthy. It is. Now, I don't knock it. I see what you're doing, which is good, because it opens people up to allow them to be able to do what we're doing now. But remember, we're not raising us up.
That's
It's not about us.
No.
It's not about us. It's about the prophet and the people in the Moorish Science Temple of America. Please don't give me no honor. I don't deserve it. I told him today I was a bum when he met me. He taught me how to be a man.
Right.
Prophet taught me how to be a man. I was a bum. I mean, a literal bum. Ain't nothing I got that was mine. So everything I got.
I want to make sure that we have this clear. So, you, Brother Darryl Johnson-Bey, connects through the, and I'm using affectionately, the resurrection, which, we all know, anybody in Baltimore should know by now. It's the Moorish Science Temple of America.
Yeah, right.
But connects through the resurrection by the way, is it Louise Dingle? Timothy Dingle, Louise Dingle, and then Diane.
All down through that tier.
That's right.
Okay.
All down.
Likewise, for Jeffery Johnson-Bey.
Right.
Likewise.
Right. And the reason why I asked that, because many people are going to see this in association with other Moorish Science Temple of America that's not under Timothy Dingle, and you see the Moorish Science Temple of America incorporated under R. Jones-Bey.
Right.
You see Baliel, you see Sprasadiel, you see this, and now you start to see this in the resurrection, and now the public is like, what's what?
Yeah.
And this is why this is important.
Right.
So we can, when we start talking about authority, because people tell me about authority all the time.
That's
So
it.
now we get to give clarification to
That's
the
it.
public that if this is the legitimate authority,
That's it.
then this is where people need to subscribe
That's
to.
it.
Now, what the founder said, they got movements of their own, and they call it Nova Drew.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
It went over people's head
Right.
because they didn't catch what he
Right.
was saying. He prophesies about individuals incorporating their own movements and calling it. Every individual you name, should be able to
That's right.
tie into one of the two grandfathers. By tying into, Islamism only had two grandfathers. You tie into either one or the other. If once they tie into one or the other, you know exactly along the road.
Can you name the
that
two again?
Sidney Rossendale and Kirkman Bey. What is it? Charles Kirkman Bey. That's what I was trying to get his full name. One of those two. Now there's a lot more history. Maybe we can do this some other time because even Charles Kirkman Bey got a sympathetic heart and try to correct his wrong.
Yes, it did.
But you got to study the history of more signs. Yeah, he did. When you're talking about Timothy Dingle, hyphenated prophet, noble Jew Allah, he dealt with the unification of those different grand bodies, bringing them all under one banner, the true banner. The true banner, getting them all back to the true foundation. Since then, man, you know.
Do you think that there will ever come a time when leaders will be able to sit down, when you look at in our Quran, in Egypt, where they went to the sacred grove, and they went to those groves. Right. They would challenge each other thought. Right. They would come up with the sciences of the day to really clarify how we moving in this world. Do you think the leaders will be able to sit down and do that one day?
Yes, when the tyrants die off. And I'm an older leader. When the tyrants die off, y'all young brothers have put them together like you're doing there and come together. Y'all the future of the movement. Y'all gonna come together as the future of the movement. Like yourself, I'm in my late 60s. You know what I mean? I'm getting old. Now all we can do is pass it on, pass it down. Excuse me again. Pass it on, pass it down. Y'all brothers gonna be the ones that bring the future of the Moorish side of America to what it is. I ain't no doubt about that. That old God, that old spirit gotta die off. And it's dying off.
Oh,
you say the how you word. You say the cause of the Moorish house. Slowly but surely.
It's crumbling right now as we speak. Even this interview is indication that it's crumbling. Right. And it's not because we got an interview. People might think this off the cuff. Right. I like to say before the camera once again that I reached out to you initially because I respect your position and your position as it relates to the representation of Timothy Dingle, hyphenated prophet, noble Jew Ali. And I respect everybody's position, but I'll never, the passion that I've seen here reminds me of myself.
Gratitude.
It reminds me of myself.
Gratitude. Return the root back to that. That's how we know Hey Bay or somebody raised. That's how we know. I told you that when we see you over there.
You're not taught to be mellow in your tone because you're gonna.
I told you got that gift.
You've been around individuals who cultivate the fire. But the point that you're making different, I thought for a second, and we participated in it as much as possible. I thought that the Moorish Unity Summit was going to be one of those platforms where the different leaders would get together and, actually, sit down and do some mind for yours. I'm not saying it's all going to be peaches and cream or pleasant, because mind for yours could become difficult. But if you got an understanding heart, man, and the master went out, I gave an example. If I went before your people and I say, Tahaka Bey, that lesson he was teaching about such and such is completely wrong, and I taught the right lesson, they'd look at me subjectively. They wouldn't hear objective because they're gonna take your side. But if I had you in this setting and I broke, and vice versa,
that's what I'm looking forward to.
But because I had you in this type of setting, and I say Tahaka Bey, man, you were on point with this, but you veered off a little right here.
Absolutely.
I've been taught that this, and this, and you find understanding in it, and then you go back to your people and implement it.
Yeah, and I think that's where it needs to come to, because there's so many variations of Moorish thought right now on social media.
I hear people say this here. So I've been in the Moorish side of America 40 years. So I've been around over 40 years too. I've been around over 40 years, and I've seen all the mess. And you know what? I've never seen it in a worse state.
Right. I got you.
The old God don't want unity, got to die.
Moses.
Absolutely.
Moses got to.
Moses
couldn't bring the people over into the promised land.
He taught a lot, though.
Joshua had to do it. Same Joshua that ran the Moabites out of Asia. Just like the 1619 Project. Where the Moorish civil rights at? Can no black people represent a Moorish American? Where the Moorish at? They got Muslims in there from different countries. Where the Moorish American probably supposed to be in there? Got me? But listen to what I'm trying to say. He set this up for us to be able to have a complexion there to represent who?
Politically.
Us. A political complexion to represent us.
Right.
We got to. The prophet set it up. Look, we study everything. You got to be a master more son. That's a juristic, a lawyer. Man, you understand this?
Jewish
you gotta be adapting jurisprudence.
How many locations do y'all have under this home office that we talked about previously?
We got several books.
Only one I would feel comfortable in sending an individual to is John Lomax Bey, Ronald Lomax Bey. And
Where they located?
on
Bel Air
Bel Air Road is 3222.
Only one.
3222 Bel Air Road. And that's not slighting anybody, because you'll find me sitting in other meetings.
I mean, I know that's not slightly.
Yeah.
I stopped recommending groups because usually when I send people to some groups,
I caught you.
I stop
Yeah.
because they come back and come and say, "Man, hold
But
that."
that's the
Man.
only
But
way.
how can I
If I send my brother right there, as you can see,
Yeah.
Carlos to one of them
Yeah.
temples, they gonna tell him, "Man, listen, man, you gotta shake hands like this. You
Right.
need-
Yeah.
you
And that's
need to-
what-
we
that's
don't
what-
shake, we press."
Right, right.
And he's like, "Man, I ain't going back to these crazy
Right,
people.
right, right.
They won't even give him a chance to educate
Yeah,
himself."
right. You
That's
gotta,
the point. How can I send a person who trying to find refuge in the Moorish Temple of America? How can I send them when you talking about taking them back to Chicago?
Yeah.
Or
See, my brother right there, he gonna tell me, he gonna say, oh, they bluffing over there, man. Don't send me over there. He gonna say, as you say, they lames over there. Don't send me over there. That's what he gonna tell me. And his whole crew gonna tell me that. Man, we ain't going over there mess with them lames with them funny hats.
we gotta think
So I don't
about
send nobody
the problem.
nowhere.
We gotta think about the problem.
Bro, you can come up here though. We ain't no
Yeah.
lanes with the funny
Yeah,
hats.
you
stop fast.
Listen, I already told you I came up here. I said, nah, these my peoples right here. He said, we good. You know what he meant. He said, I said, nah, these my peoples right here. We good.
We good, but that's all we trying to do. We ain't trying to slight nobody.
I wish I could tell people.
Yeah.
I wish I
But
could.
y'all love that bill, but you can say, we can say.
Yeah.
And that, like I can't. I wish, like we say all the time, we wish we could.
We wish.
Yeah, but we
Right.
can't, man.
What do you think is the ultimate lesson that people need to know about the Moorish Temple of America, just taught by Timothy Dingle?
That what he said is a resurrection.
What is the
center.
ultimate lesson
Is a
that people need to know, that the world need to know?
That this is the registration center. The only way a Negro, Black, and Color can proclaim their free national name, their free national descent name, religion, and all the things that they need in race is through the Moorish Temple of America.
And would that be through this particular body, or everything else is outlaw, outdated, and now it's here?
If it's not
No,
coming,
I'm just saying this is just
if it's not coming through the great book of the resurrection and his authority, the federal government not even honoring it.
And let me say this to my audience: this is not to cause division. It's
No,
not
it's not.
thinking that everything is about division. We're bringing clarity.
Right.
We're bringing only bringing
That's
clarity,
only.
and people would take that question as if I'm trying to
That's why he
out
said.
everybody else. That's not what I'm saying.
69.
Because
why
that would
he's-
also include me.
But that's
if
why
you're trying to
he's-
out you, out me. But
That's
I just
why
want
he
clarity.
say on page 69, if you have a charter that was authorized through the old author, get a resurrection charter.
That's right.
That's not saying abandoning
Right.
nothing. That's
That's
giving
all.
you federal protection.
That's all.
Man, when you pull that nationality card,
That's
it got
right.
a federal
Yeah.
seal on it.
A
It's
federal
being
seal.
recognized. Why the Lumbee tribe or the Picaloos
Excuse me.
here in
Yeah.
Maryland have tribal cards?
What
Got my
privileges?
charter.
What privileges or laws that it affords you to have that charter as well as that nationality card? Like, what does it afford you? Because most people will come in. I don't come in like this. Most people come in. What the Moorish Temple of America do for me?
Free national standard. Free national.
We guess what? We opening up. We're in the process of opening up the file on the moment. Free national standard, just like he said. Recognized as a free national citizen.
You got
They asked him. They asked him. Let us know when one of your members is trying to make a change.
That wasn't just for Baltimore. He was working in conjunction with all three grand bodies
That's
in
right.
51. And you notice I ain't saying 51, 52,
Right.
53. You be you be specific.
That's right.
Show discretion.
Right.
But in 51, he's in selective service,
right.
and he's given the right to bring to
That's right.
the
There,
federal
that's
government
right.
any individual that's a Moorish American in the world.
Let me know who got that authority other than him.
When we look at the Moorish Science Temple of America through the variation groups or bodies, whatever you choose to call them, many people have different methodology. Because I got a little bit name on social media, people reach out to me. I need to get my name corrected. I need to get my status corrected. I need to get my name changed. What is the process with your group?
That's what we reserve. We teach.
That's
why we teach. That's what it's for. We teach.
That's what the registration center is all about.
We teach.
My credentials straight.
We teach it.
You know, like that ain't.
We teach it.
A lot of them masters, you get them pull ass stuff.
We teach it.
Out stuff legit. Like
We
I got a license. I'm proving the point that I got a license.
You don't believe in the right to travel?
Huh?
No, I'm just.
Man, cut it out. What's your man? I met him. I gotta say this while you say that.
Whoa, talk to me.
No, not you. I know your name. The mastermind. I met him as the executioner. Now his name, the brother Sharp, man. You just put a segment on that when he destroyed the right to travel. Sharif. When I met him, I was introduced to him as the executioner. I still was egotistical at the time. So in the debate, you can debate a subject and be wrong.
Right.
But just to see if the person you're debating is right. And we were talking about something. And I'm ego. What you mean he the executioner? And so I challenged them on something. Man, he tore me up too.
Yeah. He's an excellent debater.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Very tactful in his debating style.
So remember, we unity. We about unity.
But the answer to your question is, the only way you straighten out all your documentation and all that right was reserved for the moment. Timothy Dingle, not all German.
We can prove it.
Not Richardson Dingle. He got a file, but his file went with 990.
That's right.
Over 1099. And that's something that's open.
So someone join here today, they can go. I don't want to use tomorrow because people they're gonna be knocking at your door.
Yeah.
We teach it.
But if somebody join today, tomorrow they can go and straighten out at MBA or all of that.
It's gonna take a time to be taught. Exactly. We teach people the methodology. How to get that. That's what we do.
When I was coming through, we had the baptismal certificate, and that worked.
We got still work. It still works.
That's his system.
That's his system.
I know this. Brother.
Yeah, but he's saying
But that's a part of it. I didn't mean to leave that out.
No,
That's
no,
essential.
it's fine.
That you implemented that. Okay. When you deal with the birth certificate, you're dealing with a system of vital statistics that was set up by Walter Plecker, who was a German racist in all actuality, right down in Virginia.
That's right.
But how they implement Negro, Black, and colored on official record is through the birth certificate. And you can't change what's on the birth certificate, but the birth certificate don't stipulate the individual that's being born race. The application that's filed for the birth certificate get the mother and the father or one of the other, whoever fill it out, to stipulate what their race is. Meaning, I'm a Moorish American Asiatic Muslim. My mother still prescribed the black. When I was born, she prescribed the black. So on official record, I'm still black. On official, because my birth certificate denote me as a black individual. Timothy Dingle created a system where the baptism certificate go beside the birth certificate to implicate when the change happens. They so slick now. They'll say, "Oh, you're a Moorish American. Give you your baby." By the time your grandson come into existence, they'll take it from you. And then they'll tell them, prove it. He'll go back to you, but then they'll go back to your great-grandfather and say, man, he was black. No change there. So the baptism certificate that you're talking about gotta go beside, gotta go beside the birth certificate to show where the change happened.
But it gotta be lawful. You can't know anybody use it.
He the only system.
I mean, you gotta acknowledge actually the prophet. You have a lot of it because that's who created that. Ain't nobody created that.
He got the system.
He created that.
Do y'all understand what type of earthquake that this interview gonna cause?
Yeah.
Earthquake.
And
he shook the earth. The bull shook the earth.
Can I say this?
Tomcat back in town, and he liked rat meat. That's right. Tomcat back in town.
Man, I wanted the first day you asked us for this interview. We wanted to do the interview. But when you sitting under the tutelage of individuals, you just can't do what you want to do. And if they say no, nay, it's not, now we're in a position where him and I can say, look, Mo, I'm gonna do this interview, but come on, whatever you want to do, let's do.
Because in the future, what I want to do, I want to come back and break that. See, one thing I teach our members that, you know, in order to understand the teachings of Timothy Dingle, you have to take your mind to understand the degrees.
That's right.
Right.
He
I
taught
hear you.
That's
right.
That's right. And you just not going to walk on
that. You talk that much.
I want to come back and maybe break down some of the degrees where the public can digest. Because I know y'all are qualified. You know what I'm saying? Many are not qualified.
There's a conversation that him and I had. I told you it's no flattery. You have a platform. For me to try to create this, you know how long it took you to critique this platform, brother. For me to try to create that platform for us would take me probably even longer than you. So why would it, when you and I have a relationship, I'm a friendship, a brotherhood with each other? You understand?
Absolutely.
So why wouldn't I utilize your platform?
And I think it's very important because you know and I know, we look on social media all the time and we see these fugazi. I'll be looking at it.
They bad deals? That's good, man. They bad deals?
And
all the profit?
I mean, even when you know, I still got my resurrection book. You know what I'm saying? I never got rid of my resurrection book.
Keep
and so when people start breaking down and they start shouting Timothy Dingle's name, I be like, I be looking at them a little bit sideways. So I just think it's very important that we sit down and we break down these degrees for the public can understand.
That's what we're going to do.
In your travel, you have met a lot of Moorish masters. In your travels, would it be easier for me to draw people to me if I just promote Timothy Dingle? Or would it be easier for me to draw people to me now if I promote 3 to 4 different masters, depending on where I am, you know, what part of the country I'm in? The answer is, if I'm talking Timothy Dingle in certain parts of it, they're going. But if I, you know, some masters got 3 charters. Depending on who show up is what charter on them. So, you know, I ain't throwing no rocks and hiding no hands. I don't take no tea for no fever, just like my daddy taught me. A little more reserved now, polished, and I understand it. Hopefully one day I get there. But no, man, that ain't how it is. I'm promoting Timothy Dingle everywhere. You close your ears, but I'm trying to learn how to promote Timothy Dingle in a form where you're even if you are subjective, you'll give me objective.
Can you give us some more clarification on Timothy drew Allah?
Okay.
Because you know that probably I use the term Timothy Dingle hyphenated prophet noble Drew Ali because that is what's written.
I got you.
Understand what I'm saying? But as y'all, that's what's written. That's what I grew up on. I came in the movement when I was 18 years old. You know what I'm saying?
I got you.
But with that being said, can you give the public some understanding when the transition happened and just clarity of why, which you already did once, but I would love for that to happen again.
When the master picked up on Noble Drew Ali being an or a Allah title name, he was giving you the mastery of the title name, Noble Drew Ali, and what they did to Ali, what they did to him. So what the master did, he took the English language and esoterically showed that only a superstitious people don't associate the spirit of truth with Allah.
I got you.
So he took our teachings. He took Noble Drew Allah and said, y'all might think my mind jumped in time.
He knew they were going to think that.
Right? But if you look in the Holy Quran of the Moorish 12 America chapter 8, it's when you look into the man, you're looking at the image of Allah.
He's not saying the Allah.
He's not saying the, which is a definite article. He's not talking about the. We don't associate nothing with the great God. The great God, he don't come down here, but he always with us in the form of what? Spirit of truth.
That's right. And or a.
So he's an or a Allah. Watch how he uses the language. He don't use the, he uses an or a. We're trying to deafen it up, okay? In the English language. So we get away with using Allah, because we lifting them up. Now, on the first print, it was A-L-L-I.
Still pronounced the same.
Still pronounced Allah.
Right.
But you can pronounce Ali, Allah.
Allah.
Vowels are what? Interchangeable. Because we mastered the English language.
That's
You gotta
right.
be. So now, we don't only use A-L-L-I or A-L-I, we use A-L-L. Arm, leg, arm, he.
So,
Got it?
Islam. Now, you know, I teach on that a lot. That we are destined to become the flesh and blood of
Oh,
Allah, as
yeah.
the
You
Quran
know
says.
that? Here we are.
So
Yeah.
I definitely get it.
You never classified yourself in a higher godly state. Man, I'm in the law.
No, in fact, I teach that in the temple.
Okay,
I don't hold that.
He making that up.
I actually teach that on Facebook
Yeah.
on my Friday Holy Day. I don't hold that.
Yeah.
He making that up. What do you think I had to be?
Absolutely.
A or N?
That's right.
You gotta be.
You gotta be to get this
I
done.
hate using words. But them moms, they ain't gonna hear nothing about N or A or L.
That's right. Did we miss anything in this interview?
Really?
Did we
I'm
miss?
quite sure we did,
But
but
we'll
right
get
now,
to
where
it.
we
Yeah,
at?
because we
we'll
want
get
them to
back.
see it. They're gonna say it's too long.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm gonna put it in two parts, but I want to make sure that we got all the important parts. Do anybody have any questions? They think that we could hit real quick? You think we covered everything? All right.
I want to ask, what's your name again?
Jeffery Johnson-Bey.
You said y'all promote diplomacy, right?
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that?
Using diplomacy in the sense of with myself.
Okay.
I'm very, very like fiery. It's probably not only difference between you and I probably age, maybe a bit. Cut that out. But diplomacy is like I speak my mind,
Yeah.
but instead of telling you, man, in a way that's not respectable, or you might take your spirit might take it as, man, he trying to and fight me back on the diplomacy is, good brother, how you feel? How you doing, good brother? Diplomacy, like I'm a diplomat. I'm an officer in the Moorish Science Temple of America, so I gotta carry myself as such. I can't. You catch me. I might get down a little, but you catch me, I'ma stay high. Like that's the point.
Yeah. So he ain't gonna give it to you like
that.
me. Like I might choke you. Nah. But with that being said, family, how about brother Supreme Red Sheik, Darryl Johnson-Bey? Anything that you think we missed? Anything you want to cover?
Man,
We're gonna come back and revisit this though.
I'm just asking everybody, man, stop talking and about each other, disrespecting one another, not giving yourself a chance to get the wealth, you know what I mean, of what the prophet came to give us.
Right,
just stop that. If you want to know something about one of us, just come and talk to us. We're not unapproachable. We're approachable.
What is meant by the term if I draw you cut? What is that?
I got you.
Oh yeah, I like that. That's it.
That's an axiom in all actuality. If I draw your cut, a lot of people stop right there. You need to say the whole quotation to get a better understanding on what Timothy Dingle, hyphenated prophet, Noble Drew Allah was saying. If I draw your cut, meaning if I draw the words of truth from my mouth, then you're cut from doing wrong to doing right. But he go further. He say if I draw, you're cut. If you draw, I'm cut. If we have understanding hearts, what's going on the Moorish circuit right now, the individuals you're talking to don't have an understanding heart. So you're going in a meeting and you're talking and you're winning. But his science that he's teaching his members is flickering lights. So he's talking. And to his members, he's winning. If I draw the words of truth from my mouth, letting you know that this is a verbal demonstration. This ain't we got some of them degrees, but this is a verbal demonstration.
Look, man. Here go a good Moorish master. Look, man, I was wrong. He was right.
Indeed.
I draw you cut. I understand it.
I understood what he said.
I understood what he said. He got it.
What's the degree? I wanted to cover this. What's the degree defender or she'll defend herself. Sit her down.
Put her down.
Put her down.
No. The sister, the man, the brother always out there.
Let me bring clarity on the front of the resurrection.
I was trying to look
the book. Prophet Noble Ali on the questionnaire. He's holding the sister of humanity on the resurrection, on the book of the resurrection. Prophet Noble Ali, Timothy Dingle. Now humanity is down. What is
101 pamphlet?
What is this all about? So from the 101 pamphlet, Prophet Noble Ali has the sister, and from here, Timothy Dingle, hyphenated Prophet Noble Ali, she's laying down. What is that all about?
In degrees, he letting you know what he did to the sister. Did the prophet got in his arms? He said the prophet couldn't do the work of humanity with her in his arms.
That's right.
Say the degree is a divine cover. So what he wants you to do is he wants you to examine what needed to be done to the sister. Look at her. She look Moorish in the prophet's arms, but she represents humanity. Look at her name.
She dressed up.
I'm telling you, he fulfilled.
That's right.
He fulfilled what she was demonstrating, which was what's in the back of it.
Right. That's right.
Water don't always symbolize purity. It symbolizes chaos and confusion. It's that dark cloud.
Right.
Look at her name. She on the rock of what? Salvation. Now, it's different degrees on her back, or she will defend herself.
She can down.
Put her down. She ain't sleep. Don't you think she's asleep?
Why is Timothy Dingle hand on his sword?
He unsheathed.
Public defender.
Representing them.
The words of truth from his mouth.
He on the battlefield. She on the home front now. That's the United States Constitution, by the way. That right.
As well as
one of the symbols. As well as Islam. That right.
She dressed up.
She dressed up.
But don't think for a second, because they say we ain't, this letting you know, man, we public defenders. It's a fight. We declare war on sin and crime.
You got humanity there.
That don't mean you got brothers pulling out swords in the reality.
I just love the degree, so that
you talk about them words of truth that you was talking about.
I love
coming out his mouth.
Don't we read somewhere in the prophet literature where he says that humanity must be placed on the
solid rock? Must. That's right.
I just had to pull that out because those was one of the in my younger days, those was one of the degrees that I excelled in. I wanted to pull that sword out. So with
hey Mo, you said something before, and I told the Mo we cracked up about it, but the same way, man. We come up the same way. We done demonstrated this gospel verbally. You ain't like it, we can go on the crack.
We was ready to fist a couple
swords. Not ready. We done fisting. But you gonna edit that part out too.
I've already been.
But you said that I heard.
And the difference between me and a lot of people that we see on the internet, especially y'all, and it's a total difference that most people that's on the internet, on social media, have not lived this, experienced this, and put their life on the line for this. You know what I'm saying? I know I have. I know the passion that y'all have. I know that y'all have. Even though I haven't witnessed it, I see it. You see what I'm saying? What would you tell, in closing, those on the internet that the only Moorish science that they get is from social media? What would you tell them, and how can they connect with you in order to get a dose of Moorish science in its purest form and which you understand?
I used the word contemporary when you were talking tradition. Traditionally, the Moorish Science Temple, you must attend your meetings. With the pandemic and all the things that's going on in the world right now, I haven't talked with the supreme authority on it, but I'm pushing an agenda, like I say, that your platform be the future of Moorish science. So all I can say is find good brothers like yourself and I who would have meetings and stuff like that on social media. Find them and then turn yourself with them. Stay turned. In the past, I would have told you, make it to a temple. But, you know, right now, it might not.
Practice social distance until, until. It's going to be a time, but, you know, we only so many. Because we don't want to be recharged. We're giving somebody something. I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it for the people. I'm not doing it for me. Allah got me, but I got to do it for the people. We got to.
By the way, I got the antibodies, man. I just got over it. That's why I took my mask off. But You know, I'm just being. You gonna cut that off too, right?
I'm doing good. No, I'm doing good. I don't really worry about it. So family, I thank you. I thank you for joining us. We're going to be back here again and do this again. I think this was very enlightening, very refreshing. And again, I want y'all to know that this is no slight at any group. And I would encourage any leader that stand on truth as they understand it to come, sit down, and let the public know what your foundation and what your belief and faith is as it relates to the Moorish Science Temple of America and the teachings that you teach every week in your temple. I think that will give the public a more secure feeling as it relates to their interest in joining any Moorish Science Temple of America. For you to come into the public and say, this is what we represent, this is what we stand for, and let the public decide that, and so the public will be able to decide if you are a reasonable Moorish Science Temple of America dedicated to the liberation of themselves and their family and their community. With that being said, I salute you. Channel 7, we see you on the next go around. Peace.
I broke away from the porch. I kicked the banister down off the porch and ran off the porch. I've been.
Then you saw me when you came up the porch. Then you saw me. That's what happened. When you came down, then behold, you're right. When the student is ready, the master appears. So that's what you see. That's what you see.
I'll be that more you gon' remember. To Arthur Bay front line till the law call my number. You a friend of the Moors, then you a friend of mine. I was told to watch my enemy.